This.
BBC Radio Gloucestershire.
Really interesting and sort of quite just interestingly informed response to this story. Do keep it coming in. Let's just go through this one. Families those who live in care homes in Stroud, so they're shocked and they're devastated that 2 could close by the end of the year. County Council are proposing to close Wyatt and Southfield homes due to low occupancy. The authority says there are many empty beds across the county as more people are choosing to stay in their own homes. The 56 residents affected would be placed in alternative local accommodation. Employees will be offered roles in other homes. But these relatives are concerned.
I'm a nurse by profession, so I have seen that there's been dwindling numbers there. So I can understand a little bit. Kathleen knows, bless her, because she hasn't lost her marble, so she's really anxious. My husband and I are really worried because it could that could be something that would, sounds awful to say, but it would just knock her completely, and she may not, recover sort of mentally, emotionally from it.
It'd be very sad if it does close down, because it's good home, good care. The staff are really good, best staff, and the head of home is lovely, and it's just really awful news.
Also spoken to 85-year-old Beryl Owen, a resident of the Southfield care home.
Shocked and disgusted. Disgusted to think that they can treat older people like they have. It's not treating us as people. It's not right. Completely gutted. In fact, I've been awake nearly all night. We've all lived a fairly full life. Now we're brought here and we're given all the tender love and care that we need. Food's good, company's good. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, because you make friends for life. And we're living our lives together.
Well, the closures would come just a year after Gloucestershire County Council closed 2 other care homes, Travone House in Gloucester and Townsend House in Mitcheldean. Council now owns just 15 care homes, whilst there are more than 100 in the private sector. County Council says it will continue to meet with residents and their families before making a decision in July. Important to point out, there's still a decision to be made on this. Conservative councillor Roger Wilson is the Cabinet member for Adult Social Care Commissioner.
There are a rising number of elderly in Gloucestershire, and that will continue, but the policy is to try and keep people in their own homes wherever possible, to make residential nursing care, as we all knew it in the past, where you put granny in the home for a long period of time. Those days are really gone, and nursing homes and residential care homes are becoming much more short-term and much more specialist in their care. And in the case of Southfields, it's a residential care home. It has no nursing capability and therefore is difficult to change. And in the case of Wyatt, it's very much a dementia only home, but really not fit for purpose, built in the early 1960s and very much past its best.
So that's the practical reasons for it. Councillor Wilson also says that if the closures go ahead, the care and health of residents is a priority.
We are doing everything we can to make sure that any move that they have is as smooth as possible and causes as little harm to anybody as possible. Each resident will be allocated a care worker, a social care worker, who will be personally looking after all of their requirements and all of their issues that they have, to try and make that move as smooth as possible.
So those are the practical reasons, dealing with it. And there's the emotive side of it. Joining me now is Stroud's Labour MP, David Drew. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mark.
From the County Council's line, really, there's 10 to 15% vacancy level across the care homes in the Stroud district. More people are being supported to live in their own homes. It's a tough decision, but that's their theory.
Well, that's their theory, but it's not the practice. I mean, the reality is that from a long time back, both Southfield and Wyatt were promised a refurbishment, a serious refurbishment. I mean, the county allowed the places to run down, and of course they're less popular than they would be otherwise. I mean, my real worry is that we talk about Stroud as though it's the whole of the district. There is a shortage of homes in Stroud town itself. If these 2 go, people will be forced out of their local community. That's not what I find acceptable, and the lack of planning, the lack of forethought of this council is unbelievable. But why now? Why such a rush? Why is it that they're able to spend millions on an incinerator, and yet we cannot look after our older people? It's just totally unacceptable. Mark.
Well, the County Council says Wyatt House is old, it's run down, it doesn't have the modern specialist dementia facilities that other homes offer. That is just the real world. Residents could end up in better care homes with better facilities. What on earth is wrong with that?
Well, Wyatt is a special dementia unit, and there is complete lack of those units in the county. We seem to be cutting out some of the specialist care. Yes, of course it needs updating. I mean, it's an old facility. It's always been somewhat undermined by lack of proper provision, which means that it's not been as attractive and supportive as it should be. So why are we not actually spending money to make them attractive for people? Yes, of course you want to keep people in their homes. So that's the right way to do it. But people in the last stage of their life need supported caring in a supported caring environment, and we're just removing those, so people will be forced to stay in their own homes with all the implications of loneliness, lack of care, and eventually it becomes, of course, much more expensive because they will need 24-hour support, and that will have to be provided.
I mean, obviously that's a broader issue. Getting back to this issue, the reality is you can talk about the county council, but they're the ones who have to deal with the reality of the money and the hand they're dealt. Empty beds cost the care homes and the council money. The homes are losing money. The Orders of St John Care Trust say there isn't a way to make them financially viable, but they will be moved. They're going to have help. They're going to have social workers taking them through this help, and they'll end up in a situation where they can reform relationships.
Well, moving a 97-year-old, all the evidence in the world, and we've got this time after time, is basically a sentence of death. People cannot be moved in their later years. There isn't suitable provision, I said, in Stroud Town. So I don't understand. All the commitments were made years ago. The Order of St John, when they came in, part of the reason they were chosen was they were going to update all the homes. Well, why hasn't it happened? Why is the county choosing, dare I say, 2 homes which they could sell for a fortune to build other homes on, rather than trying to grapple with the problem, which is that these are rather older homes, building-wise, but they're very popular. I mean, I've had lots of friends in Southfield. They've loved the care there. They've loved the way that all sorts of activities have been provided. That is lost. Let's just take a breather and let's look at whether we could use the homes in a slightly different way and make sure that they're invested in properly. It's the underinvestment which has got us to this stage now.
David Drew, Labour MP for Stroud, thank you for joining me. Are you on his side? There's an emotive argument and the County Council say there's a reality and a practical argument. Many people coming in on the point, could they not still be used in lots of different, more creative ways? Our health services, says Steve, do not seem to operate, they seem to operate in stovepipes. Why can't spare capacity be used for convalescence? We used to have convalescence homes back in the day. Angela, why can't the residents from Wyatt House move to Southfields? Then they can bring Wyatt House back up to date. Sherry, regarding the possible closure, though it's low residency, not making it financially viable to keep open, why not use the extra beds by those needing to rehabilitate? There's a theme here, isn't there, Graham? It wasn't that long ago that bed blocking in the GRH was a big issue. There were no places available for our elderly. Where are we now? Also, 90% occupancy is good, 10% being kept for emergencies. Where you stand, how do you feel? Do you agree with David Drew? Or actually, do you kind of think the council have got a tough hand? They're doing their very best. They haven't even made the decision yet. And actually, if they move them, they're going to help them. There's going to be a lot of communication and social workers to take them through it.